Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Best Today podcast. This week, I want to do something a little different. Well, in a sense, every episode is me having a conversation with you or starting a conversation with you. And for that, thank you to those who converse back with me, whether that's through posting in the Best Today community and app, sending us DMs on Instagram, emailing us, or sending us a text to let us know your response, your thoughts, your reaction to podcast episodes. Truly, that is part of why I do these episodes, is to begin a conversation, not only for you to go and have with yourself or the people in your surroundings, your environment, your families, your communities, but also right back to us. So we thank you so much for engaging with us. Today, I really just want to talk to you about a reflection that I recently had. And so today's not, well, let's just talk. Okay, that's really it. Let's talk. I've got my tea here in my one today at a time Best Today mug. You can get yours at besttoday.co. I'm going to be sipping on that and just really telling you a little bit about a reflection I had that I believe and I know actually will be a help to you. So I recently celebrated my 40th birthday, and at that time, shortly after my birthday, I set aside time. Actually, was it the day after? I don't remember. But shortly after my birthday, I set aside an entire morning to just journal and think and reflect on not only my life, but really like the last decade. What did my 30s offer me that I can take and bring into 40, right? It's kind of like how at the end of the Best Today guide, you have your review and you're looking at what did the last 14 weeks just teach me? Because y'all, we are learning. If you take the time to look, we are ever learning from ourselves and our own lived experiences, so that I can take that into this new exciting decade. Okay, so I'm sitting there, I reflect and I journal and I think about my 30s, and I realize that there's a common theme and what I believe made my 30s a great setup for this new age of life, this new age, this new decade. You know, in my 30s, I became a mom, and then I became a mom to two, and I made a really big career change. And I realized, because those are the two things that really, for me, stood out. Like, what were the big things? The big things were becoming a mom for the first time, and then becoming a mom of two. And then the fact that in between those two things, I made a really big career change. And I was thinking, those two are really connected. And if I hadn't started making choices and decisions the way that I did right at age 30, right? There was a decision I made that I'm going to share in a second at age 30 that I think became a catalyst or the foundation or the fuel, I don't even know the word really, for who I am today. And yeah, it's just really, really exciting when you take the time and just think back and really make time and space for thinking back. So there's a lesson before we even get to the lesson of this episode is please make time and space in your life for reflection, for really looking over, whether that's looking over your day, your week, your quarter, your year, a decade of life, your whole life, because in there are some real gems. And so I realized that the two things, becoming a mother and making a career change, were connected in a way that's eye-opening. So that's what I want to talk to you about that great lesson in my 30s and how that has gotten me to where I am and who I am today, sitting here talking to you. So I often say one of the points where I can look in my adult life, where I started to sense a change in my being, is when I was pregnant with my daughter. My daughter is my oldest child. I was 29 when I found out I was pregnant with her, but I was 30 at the time that I actually had her. So one of the lessons I had to learn in that time period was letting go. Prior to that, I was very, very big on this is exactly how I want something to go. This is exactly how it will go. Here's the detailed plan, and this is it, right? That was me. And if you've listened to other episodes where I've talked about my life story, that is how I had lived my life, right? But I knew, and I'm grateful for this wisdom, that when it came to delivering a human out of my body, which I had never experienced before, I had to let go. I could make an idea of this is what I want, but I didn't want to cling to that because I knew anything can happen. And I had to learn to relinquish that specific type of control while maintaining what mattered most to me, which is a really delicate and beautiful space to be in. For me, but that was something that was new, and I knew I needed to do that, and I did, because I knew that was also going to be for my own peace of mind. It was going to be for my peace of mind if I had this plan that I was clinging to, and anything happened during labor that was different from that, that was going to affect me mentally, physically, and emotionally, and all of that would impact, right, laboring and birth. And so as I thought about that, that was one of the first things, like that is like right at 30, where I had to make that decision that Shunta, we have to let that part of our personality. She has served us mostly well, but this is where we end that characteristic of you. This is where she's gone now. Thank you for serving me, and goodbye. And so I just thought about that. That was like really one of those first things where you realize something that once helped me to get where I am now in this place, it could actually harm me. It could actually not be for my good. So I had to learn to let go. And that really is a big thing that I learned. That's not the lesson I'm getting to, but I just thought about that. But one of the big decisions that I had to make, and that I made while pregnant with my daughter, was when I was 38 weeks pregnant. 38 weeks, for those of you who know, typically full term is 40 weeks. So we're talking about like 2 weeks shy of having a child for the first time. I switched from my doctor, my OBGYN, to midwives. And that was a really big deal because, again, 38 weeks, you could have this baby like tomorrow. And here's why I did that. Like I said, I prepared. We took classes with people whose values and vision for birthing aligned with what I wanted. I had a birth plan, but I also understood that at the end of the day, what matters most to me is a healthy child and a healthy mommy, right? So do what you have to do to make that happen. And that was the relinquishing of control, right? However, I just did not feel supported by my OB once we started really getting close and I explained what my priorities were and my desires were. And it was always met with pushback. And it got to the place where I had to trust and listen to my voice and say, this person isn't going to create the environment that I need and for my safety and for my child and my peace of mind. And so I switched to midwives at 38 weeks. Thankfully, that worked then. Probably couldn't work today because today is so hard to get a new appointment. But at the time, the alignment was great. The midwifery office was just starting, and so they were taking on more patients. And I had a meeting with the main midwife, talked to her about my concerns and why I wanted to switch. Boom. Just like that, I switched. I think before my daughter was born, I saw 2 different midwives. I had like 2 appointments, and then bada bing, bada boom, I had my daughter. But that decision, right, was really, really bold. But it was made because I trusted my instincts. I knew what I wanted, and I was willing to speak up and advocate for myself in a setting that was really new to me. This was, again, my first time being a parent. I am here really by myself. As far as like my mom doesn't live here where I am. I have no other blood family. I have family here, trust. But at the time, of all my friends here, I also was the first, well, technically not the first, I was the second to have a child. So I really was standing on, this is like new terrain. And I was willing to speak up for myself when I didn't feel supported. I changed my environment to one where I would be. And that's really big, right? That's a really big thing to do and can be scary. But that was one of the things and became one of the defining moments, I think, of my life and of my 30s. That foundation of trusting my instincts. And when the timing looks like not good timing, right? 2 weeks before you're about to give birth, you're going to move to complete strangers. You don't know any of them. They don't know you. And actually the midwife who ended up delivering or catching Zoe, my daughter, in the water, I never even, I don't think I ever even had an appointment with her before. I don't remember, but love her dearly now. But I don't even know if we had even met. And I was okay with that because it was the value connection and the trust that was there with all of the midwives at the time when I went. At Best Today, we exist to help women just like you be your best one today at a time. So each week on the podcast, we are going to highlight your stories and your voices. So let's see what's in the inbox today. Today, we have a message about Right Now Routine from Rachel. Rachel writes that Right Now Routine is a gentle guide for helping you establish consistency in your life, not to take out the fun and spontaneity, but to make more room for those things. It's clear that the purpose of Right Now Routine is to help you build a life that works for you individually, and it provides the framework you need to live that life every day. Thank you so much, Rachel, for sharing your thoughts on Right Now Routine after completing it. What I love to see is when people come inside of Right Now Routine and really get started. And that's exactly what Rachel has done. Thank you so much for that review. We love hearing how Right Now Routine affects and impacts you all in your daily life. If you have not taken Right Now Routine to learn how to create realistic routines that work for your life right now using my signature TACO method, that's TACO. Today is the day to do that. Go to rightnowroutine.com and find out why thousands of people worldwide have taken this program to learn how to create routines in a way that you've never thought about routines before. It is not rigid. It is not, you must do this one thing every single day. It is a new way to think about routine, and it works. So go to Right Now Routine right now and find out how to set up your very own taco. So go to rightnowroutine.com and sign up for Right Now Routine today. The first thing is learning. That was really, for me anyway, as an adult. I guess nothing makes you feel more adult sometimes than becoming a parent. But for me, that really was a time where I had to do something that felt really big and bold, even though the timing didn't feel right? And I learned and knew, putting those words together, I knew the importance of being around the right people and using my voice. And so for me, I really know that was a defining moment, not only of my 30s, but in my life. And that became something that I stepped on to do more of that in my life. And so flash forward to a year and a half, after I have my daughter, and I find myself experiencing what I now know is termed the Sunday scaries. I used to always share this experience and people like, oh, that's the Sunday scaries. I had never heard of that term. But Sunday night, when I would literally in my body feel sadness and dread of having to go back into an office in a place where I didn't want to be, again, in an environment that was not good, in a place I didn't want to be, and working around people who saw no value in me. And so I had these unpleasant experiences at work. And again, I had to make a decision. And this wasn't about switching jobs. People do that every single day, right? It wasn't switching from working from one company and then another, which at one point I was thinking of doing, and I did interview. But in that process, I realized that this profession had nothing to offer me in that time and space. And instead, I wanted to focus on my life over my career, which is the opposite of what I had been doing. And this is still young in my career. I didn't know what that would look like, but I knew it was a decision that led me to be right here where I am. And making the decision to not only leave the firm, but leave the practice and not seek any type of legal job, but to do something on my own was a huge decision for me. It was a huge decision for me. It was a big change for me. But again, and it was very different from the Shunta of the 20s Shunta, basically, because I had worked so hard to get there. And I also, again, I had a plan. When you have a plan, you stick to your plan. This is the plan, right? But I had to learn to honor who I am right now, not who I thought I would be right now or who I was before. I always say, do not give yourself a life sentence to a decision you make in your 20s and you're in it at any stage of your life, right? But definitely not in your 20s. Do not sentence yourself. Say, oh, I said I was going to be a lawyer, so I have to be for the rest of my life, forever and ever. Amen. But for me, I learned to trust my voice, to know what I want and to move toward it one decision, one step at a time, and to be okay if I needed to pivot or tweak along the way. And doing so is what naturally and really organically led to creating Best Today. It was looking at the talent and the gifts that I already naturally have, the things that I love to do and that excite me, talking, teaching, creating products, seeing them in your, like things that I can't even put into words how much I love it and truly believe this is where I was supposed to be all along. This was the journey that was already laid out before me. You know, I learned that making a decision that honored me might upset, disappoint, or cause others to have opinions of their own. But that is not my business because I am living my life, not my life through the lens of others. You know, the OBGYN office, I remember the lady, I can see her face right now, when I went in to request my information to be sent over to the midwives because I was moving at 38 weeks and making that switch. She looked at me like I was a young idiot, kind of like, do you know what you're doing here? Do you know how far along you are? And I'm like, I'm well aware, actually. I think more than any person on the planet, I'm the most aware of how far along I am, right? It's my body. But I learned that being at peace with God and being at peace with myself matters more than anything. And nothing would ever come before those two things. That is empowering because it becomes the standard. It's empowering. It allows me to know and to trust my own voice because I know and trust the voice who I know I'm giving ear to and trusting. And that was everything. I thank you, 30s. Dear 30s, thank you for that. For the change in who I am, for the better, and for teaching me these lessons that I needed to learn to make bigger ones, right? So it was something as small, well, I guess it's not small, but the decision to speak up for myself and change my environment when I wasn't supported with a doctor's office, and then making that decision for my life with my career, both really big deals to me. But they both were the decision that gave me peace. And you learn that, at least for me, I will say I learned, is what matters most. It's how I make choices and decisions to this day and always will. If I say yes, if I say no, am I at peace? And if it's the most amazing opportunity, but it doesn't give me peace, it's not the most amazing opportunity for me, right? And my hope is that sharing this with you encourages and empowers you right where you are today to learn to honor yourself in the choices that you make, from the small day-to-day decisions to those that feel like life-changing, even if the timing is scary or doesn't seem to be, quote unquote, great timing. And there's an episode I've already recorded with y'all about this whole perfect timing idea. I'll link to that episode in the show notes. You know, I now stand here in the, ripe age of 40. I stand on those lessons and those choices and decisions, and it makes me so excited for who I am becoming, who I have become. And I just look forward to building onto this really solid foundation. And so I really I just want to share that with you. This power of learning to honor myself, to prioritize peace, to be willing to change my surroundings for the betterment of my life, which because of that, it has bettered the lives of literal This is not an exaggeration of literal thousands of humans around this world. I'm so grateful. And I thank you as a podcast listener for allowing me to share a part of my story with you. I do that whenever I share anything about myself. It is with the intention to inspire, encourage, empower, to drop a seed or maybe water a seed that's already lying within you in hopes that it will take root and bloom into what you need for your life when you need it. So thank you for listening, and thank you, 30s. Thank you, 30s, for this beautiful lesson and for me making the time to go back and see that. I'm so proud of 30s Shunta, and I'm so excited for 40s. Thank you so much again for allowing me to share just that with you. As always, I'd love to hear your conversation back with me about this episode. If you want to hear anything I reference, I think I referenced one podcast episode, it will be linked in the show notes, which will be at besttoday.co/96. Thank you for being present with me for this week's episode of the Best Today podcast. Until next time, remember that you are capable and worthy of being your best one today at a time, and you have everything you need to have everything you want. So go on, shout it out as you live it out. This is what my best today looks like. I'll talk to you on the next episode. If you enjoyed this week's episode of the Best Today podcast, you are going to love the Best Today guide. Our Better Than a Planner guide teaches you how to get clear on what you want, identify your self-destructive habits and behaviors, and intentionally create space to prioritize yourself every single day. Don't go the journey to being your best one today at a time without the Best Today guide. See inside its pages and order yours today at besttodayguide.com. Even better, when you order the Best Today guide, we gift you with your first month free inside of the Best Today membership. So what are you waiting for? We're giving you everything you need to trade busy for intention. Go to besttodayguide.com and order yours today and join thousands of women across the globe proclaiming each day, this is what my best today looks like.